Referees are so important to soccer. Without them, we would never get to play. Kate Jacewicz is one of the best refs, and we are lucky to have her sharing her story with us tonight. Kate refereed at the World Cup in France last year, and she is also the only female ref to referee in a league game. Kate has also won the W League Referee of the Year award 8 times. We welcome Kate to Glen Eira home football program. Over to you, Kate.
Thank you for that fantastic introduction, Sophie. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and hopefully have the PowerPoint presentation for you. All right. Thank you for having me here today. I'm very grateful that I was asked to be a part of something that I believe is actually really special, especially for young girls coming through playing football, as I hope that I'm going to share with you over the next 15 minutes, to show you that football is so much more than just kicking a little ball around a field. That being said, okay. So why are we here? Well, firstly, I'd like to share my experience with football with you, because football is such a big part of my life. I'm only 35 years old. I still think I'm young, but football has been a part of my life for about 2/3 of it, probably even more if I do my math correctly. It's shaped a big part of who I am, and without it, I believe I would be a completely different person. Essentially, by sharing with you my journey, I'm aiming to inspire the future generation into continuing their journey to football, and whether that be you continue playing or you have aspirations to play at a higher level, or just continue playing grassroots football. It doesn't matter what capacity staying in football you want to do, whether it be playing, coaching, refereeing, like taking up a whistle, like I did at age 13, or even just staying within your community club and helping out with the administration. The game grows with the people involved, and with those people involved, it strengthens the community ties, and it really helps you find your place in the world. And then moving on to the final message, showing you that football is being a part of something bigger. And I'm going to share a little bit of insight into how I have come to understand how football has found a place in my heart and in my life. All right. So the timeline, when I started refereeing, I started playing in 1991. I was 7 years old. I started playing because I wanted to do everything that my two male friends, my little childhood friends, wanted to do. So I played. That was 29 years ago. Football has been a part of my life for 29 years. I started refereeing when I was 13 years old. My mum took me to my first referee course. And so I started then in 1998. Fast forward 10 years later, the W League started. And that's when I was a part of the first W League season. In 2011, I received my FIFA badge. So that means I am able to referee international football and eventually go to the World Cup, which I did 9 years later. So I had my FIFA badge. It took me 9 years to be selected for the World Cup. And in between starting refereeing and then getting on the W League, and then finally, over 12 seasons later on the W League, I refereed my first A-League game. So that took over 12 seasons, 12 years of me refereeing at the highest female level to referee an A-League game in the men's professional league. So it's something really big and powerful to understand the length of the time it takes to start something, and you set a goal and work towards it, where that spans over 22 years, and engaging and re-engaging and staying positive and having the strength to continue each year, each week, each month, each week, each day, continuing working towards putting each little piece of the puzzle to finally get to your dream of going to a World Cup, refereeing on the world stage, and then eventually creating history and being able to referee in the men's professional league. Okay. Things that I've learned, the learnings and adversities that I've had to face along the way. As you all know, football is very much dominated by boys, by men, and that's no different in the referee world. I would be lying to say it isn't difficult, because women don't normally get the same things that men do, because there's a lack of funding, there's a lack of resources, there's a lack of time, there's a lack of opportunities. And recently in the modern game, now, as you know, you've got the WNPL, you've got the W League, and you've got the Women's World Cup. Women have those opportunities to move into those spaces, but you only go down the one pathway. You go down the women's pathway. And now, don't get me wrong, I love being a part of the women's game. However, and it's also given me a number of opportunities as well. However, it does box you in, and it does limit your opportunities, and some opportunities are taken away from you because you are solely only seen as a female, and you're not just seen as a referee. I grew up playing football with the boys until I was 18 years old. I played with the boys right through junior football, and I started playing women's football when I was 11 years old. So I was always playing in levels above me, but I never saw myself as a girl, wanting to just play with like a female team. I told my pop one day I wanted to be the first female player, or I wanted to play for Manchester United. But that was funny back then in the 90s that I couldn't play for Manchester United because there was no team for me. There was no place for me because I was a female. But I didn't agree with that. I wanted to play for them because David Beckham played for them. And I thought I was good enough because I scored the goals. That's how confident I was as a young girl. So I'll touch on that a bit later on, about challenging the norm. Other things that I had to navigate were my career choice. I had to choose between refereeing professionally or playing or getting a job, basically, or finding my career. I'm only just finishing my degree at university now at age 35 because I invested so much of my time into refereeing at such a young age. there are some referees, or a lot of referees, who have juggled both full-time work and full-time studies with their refereeing career. But I made a choice very early on that this is something that I want to pursue, and I want to pursue very aggressively. And I did want to become the first female to referee in an A-League game, and that took sacrifice, and that I ultimately sacrificed my career. But I do have plans in place to finish my degree and go on to hopefully become a psychologist. One thing about refereeing is you face a lot of verbal abuse and confrontations. It doesn't make refereeing any easier, and it also makes you leave a game probably not feeling very great. There are times where people are confirming what you sometimes think about yourself. You know that you got that decision wrong, and they're just saying it to your face. Now, there's only so much you can take before that actually starts to affect you. And that's why you have to develop different strategies and techniques to overcome that. But I'll touch on that later. Also, moving on to peer-to-peer culture, you guys may know or may have experienced this before, I'm unsure. But especially in refereeing as well as playing, you can find yourself facing some issues with other teammates or maybe from other teams. That's also an issue that we all have to face, and learning how to deal with, those people that may not like you or may not agree with you. So I'll touch on that again. Fitness and image. As you all know, being a female, the first thing a lot of people look at is the way we look, and we're judged on it. That goes hand in hand with fitness. Refereeing, you need a certain level of fitness. You need to pass fitness tests, just like a player. Having to understand my body and be prepared to sacrifice and work towards something until I get there was a big learning curve for me, and I'm still facing that today. I'm still learning how to train better, how to train smarter, without risking injury or overtraining or burnout, really. So that's also something that crosses over to the playing. And finally, dealing with mistakes. As a player and also as a referee, we all have to make decisions in a game. And sometimes we don't make the right decision because we're having to make that decision in a very quick split second. I've made many mistakes in my career as a player, as a referee. I'm the first one to put up my hand. I've realized that you can't run away from them. You can't hide from them. They are there to be accepted. They are there to be looked at, and they are there. Mistakes are there to be learnt from. So, moving on to what refereeing has taught me: life skills and strategies. Firstly, as a referee, you have to learn to effectively communicate. That means getting your point across quickly, getting your point across so it's understood, and getting your point across or communicating something that is not going to escalate or make the situation worse. So that takes a great deal of patience. It takes a great deal of listening, and also understanding the player or what they're going through. Why are they coming to me with this question? Why are they saying that I've made this mistake? So you have to understand first why they are coming to you, and then you have to listen to what they say. So therefore, also refereeing, you learn a great deal of empathy and understanding, and a little bit of compassion as well, because in a game, players, all they want to do is win. The referee is there, well, now I've got 11 players on one team and I've got 11 players on another team, and they both want to win. And I've got to make decisions, and I'm the one standing in the middle of them, making decisions whether they win or lose. And that's where we have to stay objective and impartial, but also understand that a mistake could lead to their frustration. And most of the time, or when I do make a mistake, I tell the player, and I explain to them, look, I apologize, I'm sorry, and we usually are able to move on. All right. What other, as a referee, moving on from those decisions, is composure under pressure. I remember in the World Cup, and I was refereeing the round of 16 match between Sweden and Canada, and I had a penalty decision that went to VAR, and I had to go to the monitor, and I went and looked at the decision, and there was a handball. Then this was at 1-0, and then still at 1-0 because that penalty was missed. There was another penalty decision, but for Sweden up the other end. I almost didn't give the penalty because I didn't see it clearly. But something in my gut told me that this was a penalty. So I blew the penalty. But 20 seconds later, I had the VAR coming into my ear and telling me, Kate, there was an offside in the lead up to the penalty. You now have to cancel the penalty. So the courage, like the decision, the critical decision, now it's all expunged because of an offside in the lead up. And then with 7 minutes additional time, so we played 90 minutes and the score is still 1-0, and I played 7 minutes additional time. And at the very last kick of the game, there was a free kick, which then led to a corner. So now I've played 8 minutes additional time. And then there was another potential handball penalty. And it is now 8 minutes past the 90 minutes that we're meant to play. We're only meant to really play 90 minutes, but I've now played 8 additional minutes. And there was another potential handball. I've seen it. However, as a referee, we were told not to blow the whistle to end the game. We were told not to do it until the VAR comes through and says, Kate, you can finish the game. I was under so much pressure to end that game before anything else happened that because I knew, I saw that handball, I saw the potential handball, I knew it wasn't a handball. I blew full time. I finished the game because I was under so much pressure. And then there's actually video footage of my VAR jumping because I blew the final whistle. He literally jumped out of his chair and was like, oh my God, what do I do? Luckily for all of us, for me, for him, for FIFA, for Sweden, for everybody, that it was no handball. So that is just a little insight into how much pressure a referee has to go through in a match of a round 16 knockout match at the World Cup for the very first time. Refereeing also enhances your critical thinking and decision making. Like I said, we make decisions every second of every match. We have to know where to run. We have to know where to run, when to run. We have to get in the right position so we can see the point of contact. We can see that handball. We can see that kick. We can see anything that obviously the spectators and the TV can see, but we only get one view at it through a mountain of players, and moving and just making those decisions one by one by one if you actually break it down, it sounds like a headache. But as you know, practice makes perfect. But yeah, that's just some of the insights into how many decisions a referee has to make. And finally, with growth mindset, I don't know if you have heard that term before, but as a referee, you can't have a closed mind. So you can't believe that you know everything. And I think it's actually quite risky having that type of mindset where you have nothing else to learn. So, like I said about not fearing your mistakes, mistakes are a learning opportunity. And the best way to overcome the disappointment or the embarrassment of a mistake is to look at it square in the eye, is to look at it and relive it and understand how you made that mistake. And yeah, really breaking down, what did I see? What can I see now? What is the right outcome? And not only do you have to do that once, but you have to do that maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times within one match. So there isn't only one way to do something. There's many ways. There's many right outcomes. You just got to figure out which is the best outcome. Oops. All right. Finally, being a part of something bigger. Football has shown me who I am. It has enabled me to be the person who I am. There's so many little mini journeys inside my big journey that I have had to face or I've had to live through. I've just gone step by step through my journey. And what I mean by that is I worked to get on to the National League, then I worked to get on to the W League, and then I worked to get onto the FIFA list. And then when I was FIFA, I worked through every single international appointment to become the best person who I am. And then that finally led to the big prizes of the World Cup and the A-League. Put all those together, that's who I am now. And I'm not finished. And what I mean by that is my book is not closed. My book hasn't ended. I have so many more chapters to write in this journey, for lack of a better word. My aim is to go to the under-23 Women's World Cup. 2023 Women's World Cup in Australia. What a dream come true that we're actually having the best tournament in the world, the best sporting event. Sorry, Olympics. But yes, the best sporting event in the world in Australia. It's pretty special. And all of my experiences collectively has taught me to believe in my ability, to believe in myself, and to know that when I do make a mistake, I trust that I will find a way to find the right outcome or find the right decision. Another thing about football for me, and this is a big one, is celebrating the diversity that football brings. I've been to so many countries around the world that I'd never thought I would ever see in my life. Places like Jordan and China and Palestine. I've also been to Korea and Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. I've had some of the most amazing experiences at these places, and it's made it more special with the people that I've met also along the way. People involved in football live and breathe football. They love it, and I love it too. And being around people that you share this love for really creates a connection that can span through time, can span through countries. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity that football's afforded me. And like I said, I'm not finished yet. The last two, finally, is challenging the norm. I spoke about wanting to play for Manchester United when I was a kid. That's because I didn't want to be put in a box. I wanted to pave my own pathway. I wanted to create my own journey. If you believe in something or you want something so much that you see that, well, you're a female or you're too young or I'm not good enough, don't accept that. Do not accept that, because you will get older. Girls can do anything, and hard work makes you get better. And you do that continuously and continuously, and you get better and you get better and you get better, and it turns into a snowball. Don't forget that. Like you saw back in the first slide, it took me 22 years to get to the World Cup and onto the A-League. Patience, persistence, consistency. It's all up here and in here. If you want it bad enough, you will do it. So when someone tells you that, essentially no, if someone tells you no, you ask them why. Parents, I hope you're not listening to this. But if you want something in where you believe that you can do it or you can work towards it, you ask, how do I get there and what do I need to do? And you just ask for that opportunity, because if you don't ask, you don't get, essentially. And the final point I want to make is all this happened because I believe I had courage. And courage comes from the strength of having to overcome fears, having to overcome the word no, or the not yet, or you're not good enough. So you keep going and you keep putting one foot in front of the other and you find a way. It may not be the most direct way, but it is a way. It may go around, it may go backwards, but eventually you will get there. So I hope that has helped. Sophie, over to you.
Thanks, Kate. I'll ask you the first question. Were you more proud of refereeing in the A-League or the World Cup?
Ooh, a tough question, straight up. I honestly believe that I was more proud of my World Cup selection, because it opened, I believe it opened the door for the A-League for me, going to the World Cup. But the World Cup was 4 years of preparation on a selection process. So it was definitely, as much as the A-League, I had to do a lot of work to get onto the A-League. It was the work that I did for the World Cup that ultimately got me selected onto the A-League and gave me the skills, qualifications, I guess, to get onto the A-League.
Thanks for that.
Thanks. Does anyone else have a question? Adele?
I have two questions.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yep.
my first question was, what are your top 3 character strengths that you have used throughout your life, like teamwork and stuff like that?
I'll answer this question first. The top 3 character strengths. I think for me, it's acceptance. I think, is that a character strength? Acceptance in the many people that is involved in football. Maybe it's not acceptance. Maybe it's inclusiveness. It's, for me, I learn from other people. I learn from their experiences, and I just love listening to people and their stories and what they've had to overcome and work through. Like, they face so many other different barriers that I've ever had to face. And maybe it's listening. I'm going to say, as a character strength. Listening to their stories. I've got a friend in Iran who is not allowed to train at the football field with the men. She has to go to the mountains and train on a gravel road. And in order for her to train for the fitness test, she had to find a 75-meter long road that was flat enough that she could run up and back to practice for the fitness test, because she couldn't train on a football field or a park. She had to go hide in the mountains where all the trees were to avoid the soldiers. And that is just a story that stuck with me, to know when I'm having a bad day, that I should just stop complaining and go train, because I have a field to go train on. So I think, listening skills, and I think that's also gaining strength from other people's stories. And finally, I would have to say it's resilience would be the final one. What I mean by resilience is I've had to overcome many barriers and many biases against me, or put in place that they're not there on purpose, but they're there from a lack of organization, or they're there because we're unaware, or the organizations are unaware of them. And I'm having to continually battle against them, and it's tiring. But because I love football so much, and I'm fighting for this cause, so no one else that comes after me has to face these barriers. So I've also got a lot of support from people around me that help me through this. So I'm lucky with that. So yeah, what's your second question?
I don't need to say my second question. Someone else can say it.
Okay.
So yeah, their question.
Okay.
Thank you for answering my question.
Thanks, Adele. Ruby, do you want to say yours?
Hi, I'm Ruby, and my question is, throughout your reffing career, did you ever have a time where you wanted to quit or give up?
Yes, I did. It was the first season after the W League. So it would have been 2009 or end of 2008. After the first season, I didn't enjoy the first season of the W League because I faced a lot of bullying and not a lot of support from some other referees and some other refereeing organizations. So I wasn't enjoying football. I wasn't enjoying my refereeing, and I was fortunate enough that the director of referees from FFA took me for a coffee and talked me out of it, and didn't let me quit. But I was very close to quitting. Instead, I found a different way. I decided to go traveling for a little bit. I still refereed, but I decided to go have a change of lifestyle, and I traveled a little bit, and that enabled me to clear my head and enjoy life and take a different perspective. Sophie.
Thanks for the question, Ruby. Harley, do you want to go?
Hi, I'm Harley. You said that you had the option to study or to become a referee or to play soccer, and you chose to become a referee, would you go back in time to change that?
I don't know if I was mature enough or was in the right headspace to study earlier on in my 20s. I don't think I'm a very disciplined student. I'm a very disciplined referee or athlete, but I'm not a disciplined student. And I'm finding now in my later adult life that I'm a much better student, I think. At times, I'm still a bit naughty and don't do my homework. But yeah, no, I believe things happen for a reason, and I don't think I want to change that. I believe I'm a late bloomer in life, that I do everything late. So it's just going to make me, I feel, a better student going forward, and hopefully I'll understand or know what direction I want to take in my career, my job scope career, after I graduate.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harley, for the question. Alice, do you have one? Oh, no.
Alice is gone.
Oh. Amelia?
Hi, my name's Amelia, and I was wondering, do you get nervous before a match, and how do you calm your nerves, if so?
Yes, I do get nervous. I actually hadn't been nervous before a match in a very long time, until my first match at the World Cup. I was the most nervous I'd ever been. And then equally as nervous before my A-League match. But that was for a completely different other reason. Probably because there had a lot of other strings attached to that A-League game. What I found that helped me, I've gone through stages. One of my biggest or my most calming and successful strategy for calming my nerves was singing. I'm not a good singer, but I liked singing. And you know, referees, how they have mics, like Justin Bieber mic. Yeah. I started singing some songs in the tunnel with all the players around, and then I wasn't next to one of my teammates, referee teammates, so I started singing a song, and then she would come up with the backup vocals through the communication system, and then we'd all start singing. I also am partial to dancing to Taylor Swift, Shake It Off. That is not a lie. I really do that, and I make everyone in the change room do it. But mostly I find I referee at my best when I'm relaxed and I'm myself. I'm not trying to be anyone else. I'm not trying to do anything out of the normal. I'm not over-focused, or I'm not stressing myself out. I just have a clear mind. I know how to referee. I know how to blow a whistle. I know how to run around, and I know how to see a foul. And it's just about finding that way to ground yourself and just be yourself and be at your most relaxed. That's been the most successful thing for me. Thank you, Amelia.
Thanks, Amelia. Alice, we couldn't hear you before. Would you like to try again? I still can't hear you. Does anyone else have any? Maybe Lila or Clancy? Okay, I'll just ask another one.
I'll ask one. Sorry, my camera's turning on.
Hi, my name's Clancy.
I'm just wondering, like, was there like any time you like doubted yourself in not wanting to become a referee, like just like you wanted to quit or something?
Sorry, what was the question?
Like any time in your career where you like just like wanted to like give up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I must admit, playing is my first love and refereeing is my second love. I love to play, and then when refereeing told me that I had to stop playing, I'm not going to lie, I didn't listen, and I continued to play until the very last moment when they said, Kate, you need to stop, like right now. So I did. And then when I moved from Queensland down to Victoria, I went back to playing. And there were times where I thought, you know what, maybe I don't need this refereeing, and I just want to go play. Want to go play because I want to score goals. Who doesn't want to score goals?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Clancy.
Thanks. Lila, do you want to go?
So, hi, I'm Lila, and my question is, you said at the start that you played soccer because your friends were playing. If your friends weren't playing soccer, do you think you would still try it out?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually can't remember. I need to ask my mum. I don't know if I knew about football, if it was, or soccer, sorry. I don't know if I actually knew what it was if it wasn't for them. I grew up on the Gold Coast, so there was a big soccer community on the Gold Coast. So I'd like to think that once I started kicking a ball, that the love would have been there. So yes, I want to believe that yes, I would still play football because my mum would even say, like, when I was a baby in her stomach, I would kick her very hard with my big feet. And she said I'd either be a footballer or a swimmer, and I turned out to be both.
Great question, Lila. I'll do one more. How much training do you need to do to stay?
How much training? Okay, so I'll tell you about my training now as a professional referee going to the World Cup. So FIFA expect us to train 6 days out of 7. So that means we have 3 running sessions. We have high intensity, so a lot of running, very fast. We have speed, so we have to do a lot of sprints. And then on the 3rd session, we have to do a long run, maybe about 8-10 kilometers, a long slow run. We have to do a strength session, and we also then have to do another conditioning session, and then we have to do an active recovery session. So 6 days out of 7, and we're only allowed between 4 and 6 rest days in a month. So a lot of training. If I knew how much training I had to do as a referee, I would have chosen to play.
Thanks. I'll just ask Alice's for her because she's having trouble. What is the difference between refereeing a male match to a female's match?
Great question. There is a lot more whinging in one match than the other. And can you guess which one has more whinging? Yes, the men like to talk a lot more. I think there is, in Australia, there isn't a big difference between the speed of the match, if we're talking A-League to W-League. It's just at a professional level, they both play the ball and keep possession. very well. It's just the big difference between men and women's football is when the men play like counter-attack, they play very fast. And it's a lot faster than the women. So the women may take, you would have to only do a 20-meter, 30-meter sprint, and you'll already be up with play. Whereas the men, you have to do a 50 to 60-meter sprint, and you're still probably 5 meters short, maybe a few meters short. So yeah, there's a bit of difference in the speed, but only in the counter attacks. Other than that, there is not a great deal of difference between women's football and men's football. Actually, there is one more thing. Women's football, the fouls are harder to see. Men's football, fouls, everyone can see a foul in men's football. Women's football, very, very different fouls. If that makes sense.
Thanks. Amelia, do you have another one?
What was the biggest conflict you got while reffing, and how did you handle it?
Biggest conflict? Okay, I've got a story. I was refereeing men's Premier League, and I think this game, one of the teams needed to win to stay in the Premier League. And there was a player going down the left-hand wing, running very fast, and another player was running behind him. And they were running very, very fast, all the way down to the goal line. And I knew the defender was going to foul the attacker. I knew it, and I knew it was going to be a bad tackle, like a really bad, like he just chopped him down like a tree. Gone. And he did. He jumped in, like 2-footed, and it was a horrendous challenge. But right before he did that, the attacker played the ball back to the top of the penalty area. So the corner, the corner of the penalty area? Yeah, the box. So he played the ball back, a perfect cutback. I've already lifted my whistle to blow for the foul. The card is already out of my pocket. It's going to be a yellow card. I'm going to call this foul. As I've blown the whistle, another attacker has hit the ball first time, and it has rocketed top right-hand corner bucket. Like it just top bin. Like you couldn't have hit it any better. And I've blown the whistle for the foul. Therefore, the goal doesn't stand because I've blown the whistle. All I had to do was wait 1 second, and it would have been the most amazing goal I've seen in my life. But no, I've called the free kick, and I've called the foul, and I've given the yellow card, and I have everyone screaming at me. I probably have the opposition screaming at me at this stage because that's how glorious this goal was. So it turns out that goal would have kept that team in the Premier League. And to this day, this team still knows who I am, dislikes me, and thinks I am the worst referee ever because I ruined their season and made them get relegated to the first division. How did I deal with it? I've never forgotten any second of that decision. I tell this story all the time. So obviously I've got some issues around it, but I've never made that mistake again. I've always held my whistle. I've always tried to see if something else happens after, rather than being so in a hurry to blow the whistle. So much so, fast forward 15 years later, and I'm at the Under-20 World Cup, and where a player gets fouled, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, a player gets fouled by the goalkeeper, but it goes behind the goalkeeper, she falls, and then lands on the ball. You should Google it, because there's actually a clip on it. She then jumps over the goalkeeper because she's fouled, and then she lands on the ball, and then she ends up scoring by landing on the ball. It's the most insane goal I've ever seen because I held my whistle. So that's the learning I take from that conflict. I know I made a mistake. I apologize for it, and and that's all I can do. I can't go back in time. So like I said about looking at mistakes square on in the eye, that's something that I'll carry with me always, but I can't change it, but I've certainly learnt from it. Great question.
Maybe only 2 more questions. Does anyone else have any?
Benny? Sir? Yeah.
Yeah, John?
Cool. Thanks, Kate. If you could change one thing in the football community, may that be Victoria or grassroots or Australia or FIFA, what would you like changed?
What would I change? Can I say the referee uniform? No. The handball law. Just the handball law is it's always changing and it's still confusing. Yeah, I don't know. In a perfect world, I would like everyone to receive the same opportunities, regardless of gender. And that, again, in a perfect world, your experience and your qualifications and your ability counts for more than being boxed into a gender. I believe that that diversity is our strength and not keeping things segregated or inside a box. And we need to celebrate that. And we need to do that by giving opportunities to those who have those skills, who have those abilities. A friend of mine always talks about the good person test, and she says good people make good referees, great people make great referees. So, and what I believe should be highlighted, especially in refereeing, is people's critical skills in the way of empathy and understanding and listening and understanding. I think they come into account more than just being boxed into a gender. You can teach laws of the game. You can teach interpretation of those laws, but it's very difficult to have those people skills and qualities in a person, and they're the people that we should be recruiting. They're the people that we should be targeting to be a referee and be giving those opportunities to. So yeah, in a perfect world, opportunities based on experience and abilities.
Thanks, Kate.
I might be able to sneak one more in if anyone else has one.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
To myself, but to you guys. Who wants to be a referee after hearing me speak? All right, hang on, maybe a better question. Who wanted to be a referee before I spoke? No one?
Can we say it's like a side hustle kind of thing? Like I can play and be a referee?
Yeah, total side hustle. Like that's a great side hustle. Make some good cash. All right, now who wants to be a referee after the talk? Still side hustling? Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story with us.
George, do you have a question or do you want to just referee? I should ask the question. I'll take you off mute.
Hi, Kate, I'm Georgia. I'm just wondering, I'm the girls program manager at the club. I'm just wondering what you think community clubs, grassroots community clubs can do to encourage more girls move into ref programs and coaching programs, obviously, but your specialty is refs. We have a budding refs program for girls and boys, but I'm just wondering what you see as the critical things that we need to do in community clubs to get girls interested and keen on refereeing.
Yeah, I think there's been a pretty good initiative with getting female-only coaching courses. Wrestling courses or level 4s. I don't know if you guys have it or like what your setup is at your club, but one of the biggest influences as a junior referee when I was coming through was having a referee coordinator at the ground every weekend, and if she wasn't there, it would be someone else, or we'd have a couple. Also, bringing some older referees. I don't know how many referees you have, or somehow asking FV to bring some older referees to the club to maybe. I know we've done it in practice, but having referees like shadow another referee in the middle, so having 2 referees in the middle at the same time in a game. I don't know if that could be done maybe more in practice, but also having what I found really important is having practical skills training, just like just like soccer training, is having like maybe an hour session on actual practical referee skills and building that camaraderie and that teamwork within referees and doing it in a practical sense rather than in a classroom. I mean, we do a lot of learning inside a classroom in seminars, but then we also go out and go onto a field, and for 3 hours every day we're out training together and running through drills. But I do think, having those 3 are critical to. That's probably more skills development in terms of recruiting. It's a tough one because there's such a bad culture around refereeing, and we don't really have the support systems in place, especially at an FV level. That's why it's important to have open dialogue and having that referee coordinator person or to support them through that. But I'm more than happy to help out in terms of like having an information night, something like this, but on a broader scale, or something to hopefully inspire or encourage referees wanting to at least learn about it.
I just think coming up to 2023, just getting as much involvement with girls in the game as possible at all levels, it couldn't possibly be a better time than the next sort of 3-4 years, I think.
I agree. I mean, even if it's not even just done at a club level, like it's someone in your like a collection of clubs in your community, like teaming up with different local clubs in your community or local teams, and just pooling you all together, and like having little satellite clubs, that type of thing. I don't know. Probably get the numbers up. Sometimes it's better with more participants, that type of thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's right.
Thanks for tonight.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing your story with us, Kate. I'm sure a lot of us will become a ref one day too, and hopefully end up as good as you. I would love to go to the World Cup like you did. Your passion is very inspiring.
Thank you, Sophie.